She posted after our breakup. Finally free from that loser. I replied, same here. Then I tagged her in the security video, showing her cheating. Her new boyfriend was the first one to see it. My name is Matt. I'm 30 and I work as an IT technician for a regional hospital network. My job mostly involves fixing things people break and explaining to doctors why turning something off and on again actually works. It's not glamorous, but it pays well and the hours are predictable. I live in a medium-sized city and my routine is pretty simple. Work, gym a few nights a week, occasional weekends out with friends. My now ex-girlfriend was Kayla, 27. We dated for a little over 2 years and lived together for the last 9 months of that relationship. Kayla worked in marketing for a local real estate group. She was extremely social, very image-focused, and spent a lot of time on Instagram documenting every brunch, party, or networking event she went to. I'm the opposite. I barely post anything. At the beginning, we balanced each other out. She liked that I was stable and organized. I liked that she brought some energy into my otherwise predictable life. At least that's what I thought. About 6 months before we broke up, Kayla started changing in ways that were subtle but noticeable if you paid attention. She became more critical of everything I did. The apartment, my clothes, the car I drove. Little comments at first. You're lucky I don't care about material things. Most guys my age are doing a lot better by now. My friends' boyfriends all have more ambition. Stuff like that. At first I brushed it off as stress. Kayla's job revolved around image and competition. Everyone in her circle seemed obsessed with appearances. But then something else started happening. She began going out more. A lot more. Client events. Networking mixers. Industry parties. Those were the usual explanations. I didn't question it at first because marketing people really do attend weird after-hours events. But there was something about the timing that started to feel off. For example, these work events almost always happened on the same nights every week. Thursday, Saturday, like clockwork. When I asked casual questions about them, the answers were always vague. Just drinks with clients. Nothing interesting. You wouldn't know anyone there. The strange part was how defensive she became if I asked even basic questions. Relax, Matt. You don't need to monitor my schedule. I'm not monitoring anything. Sure sounds like it. So I stopped asking. Not because I believed everything she said, but because I figured if something was actually going on, eventually it would reveal itself. And it did. Just not in the way I expected. The beginning of the end happened about 3 weeks ago. Kayla broke up with me on a Tuesday night. The explanation she gave sounded rehearsed. She said she felt held back, that she needed someone more exciting, someone more successful, someone with a real future. Her exact words were actually a little harsher than that. But the interesting part wasn't the breakup. The interesting part happened the next morning. Because Kayla posted something online that she probably thought would embarrass me. Instead, it accidentally started a chain of events she had absolutely no control over. The morning after the breakup, I woke up around 7:30 and checked my phone like I usually do before work. That's when I saw Kayla's post. She had uploaded a photo of herself at some rooftop bar from the night before. Big smile, drink in hand, surrounded by a few of her friends. The caption said, "Finally free from that loser. Time to start enjoying life again." She had posted it publicly, not just for her close friends. Public. Within an hour, it already had dozens of comments. Most of them from the same circle of people who always encouraged her worst behavior. You deserve better, girl. He was holding you back anyway. Upgrade season. Stuff like that. Normally, I wouldn't have engaged with something like that. Breakups are messy and social media drama usually makes everything worse. But what caught my attention wasn't the caption. It was one of the comments. A guy named Jason had replied with a fire emoji and wrote, "Told you things would work out." Now Jason wasn't a stranger to me. Kayla had mentioned him a few times before. According to her, he was just someone from her marketing circle. Someone she met at networking events. Someone who apparently had been commenting on her posts for months. At the time, I never thought much of it. But seeing his comment sitting right under her "finally free" post made something click. Especially because the timestamp on the photo showed it had been taken the night before we broke up. Which meant Kayla had already been out celebrating before the relationship had technically even ended. That alone was suspicious. But it still wasn't proof of anything. So I closed the app and went to work. At least that was the plan. About an hour later, my phone buzzed again. One of my friends had sent me a screenshot. It was Kayla's post again. But this time there was a new update. Jason had replied again under the photo. "Now we don't have to hide anymore." I stared at the message for a few seconds. That sentence was interesting for a couple reasons. First, it implied something had been going on before the breakup. Second, it suggested Jason believed the situation had already been secret for a while. That's when something from a few months earlier popped into my head. A random detail I hadn't paid attention to at the time. About 4 months ago, I installed a small security camera in our living room. Nothing dramatic. Just one of those basic indoor cameras pointed toward the front door. I travel occasionally for work, and the apartment building had a few package theft issues. So I set it up mostly to keep an eye on deliveries. After the breakup, I completely forgot it existed. Until I read Jason's comment. Now we don't have to hide anymore. And suddenly I became very curious about something. Specifically, who had been coming through that front door on all those Thursday nights. Kayla said she was at networking events. When I got home that night, the apartment felt weirdly quiet. Kayla had already moved most of her things out that morning while I was at work. Her clothes were gone from the closet, the bathroom counter looked half empty, and the living room felt strangely bigger without all the random decorative stuff she used to buy. But the security camera was still there, mounted on the small shelf near the TV, pointed directly at the front door. I opened the app on my phone and scrolled back through the footage history. The camera automatically stored clips whenever motion was detected. At first, I wasn't really expecting to find anything dramatic. Most of the clips were exactly what you'd expect. Me leaving for work, delivery drivers dropping off packages, Kayla coming home late. But then I started checking the dates more carefully. Specifically the Thursday nights, she always said she had networking events. The first few weeks didn't show much. She would leave the apartment around 7 p.m., dressed up, then come back around midnight. Normal enough. But about 2 months ago, the pattern changed. Instead of leaving the apartment, Kayla started staying home on some of those Thursdays. Which was interesting because she still told me she had events. So I opened one of those clips. The timestamp said Thursday, 9:18 p.m. The door opened. Kayla walked in first. And behind her, Jason, same guy from the comments. He stepped into the apartment like he had already been there before. No hesitation, no awkwardness, just walked straight inside while Kayla laughed about something. They disappeared down the hallway toward the bedroom. The clip ended. I sat there staring at the screen for a moment. That alone already explained a lot. But curiosity got the better of me. So I checked the next Thursday. Same thing. Different timestamp. Different outfit. Same guy. Jason walked in like it was his apartment. And this time the footage showed something even more interesting. Because right before they walked down the hallway, Kayla stopped in front of the camera and kissed him. Not a quick peck either. The kind of kiss you don't give someone you're just networking with. I leaned back in the couch and let out a slow breath. At that point, the situation was pretty clear. Kayla hadn't started seeing Jason after the breakup. She had been seeing him during the relationship, probably for months. And based on Jason's comment earlier that morning, he apparently thought their relationship had just become official. Now, normally, that would have been the end of it. Breakups happen. People cheat. You move on. But then I made the mistake of opening Instagram again. Because Kayla had posted something new. Another photo. This time she was sitting next to Jason at a restaurant. The caption said, "Upgrade complete." And Jason had already commented underneath it, "Worth the wait." That's when I realized something. Kayla thought she had embarrassed me publicly, which meant she probably didn't expect me to respond. And technically, I didn't. At least not right away. Instead, I saved the 2 video clips from the security camera, just in case. Because if Kayla decided to keep pushing the loser ex-boyfriend narrative online, there was a very real chance I might eventually feel like correcting the record. The funny part is, I didn't even end up being the first person who saw the video. Jason was. The next day at work, I kept getting notifications. At first, I ignored them because I assumed it was just leftover breakup drama. Mutual friends asking what happened, people sending awkward "you good" texts. But around noon, my friend Mark sent me something that made me pause. It was another screenshot of Kayla's Instagram. Except this time it wasn't just one post. Kayla had apparently decided to turn the breakup into a full social media event. There were 3 news stories up. One said, "Some people are comfortable being mediocre forever." Another one, "Never date a man who has no ambition." And the third one was a selfie of her and Jason at lunch with the caption, "Found someone who actually knows how to win." Mark's message under the screenshot just said, "Dude, are you seeing this?" I stared at the screen for a few seconds. At that point, the whole thing had moved past a breakup and turned into a public roast. Kayla was basically using our relationship as a punchline for entertainment. And judging by the comment section, a lot of people were eating it up. "You finally upgraded. He looks way better." glow-up era. Jason himself was clearly enjoying the attention too. He kept replying to comments like he had just won some kind of competition. Normally, I would have just ignored all of it. But then Mark sent one more message. Pretty sure that's the guy she was sneaking around with. I typed back, yeah, it is. Then I sent him the security clip. About 30 seconds later, my phone rang. Mark didn't even say hello when I answered. Matt, what the hell is that? Security camera from my living room. There was a long pause. Dude. Yeah. You realize this is from months ago, right? Yep. Another pause. So she's been cheating on you the whole time. Looks that way. Mark let out a low whistle. And now she's posting like she just upgraded. Exactly. The crazy part is I still wasn't planning on posting anything. Not because Kayla deserved protection, but because public internet arguments rarely make anything better. Still, I kept the videos saved on my phone. Mostly because the situation had a weird, unfinished feeling to it. Like something else was probably going to happen. And sure enough, that evening Kayla made one more post. This one was longer. Not just a caption. An entire paragraph. It started with the same line she had used the morning after the breakup. Finally free from that loser. And then she went on to describe how she had wasted 2 years with someone who had no future. That was the part that made me laugh. Because she ended the post with a sentence that basically invited a response. She wrote, "Some men get replaced for a reason." So I replied, just 2 words. Same here. Then I attached the video and tagged her. What happened next was interesting. Because Kayla didn't see the video first. Jason did. The video was only about 20 seconds long. Just enough to show the apartment door opening, Kayla walking in, and Jason following behind her like he had done it 100 times. Then the part where she stopped and kissed him right in front of the camera. Clear timestamp. Clear date. 2 months before the breakup. I posted it under her paragraph and tagged her account. For about 10 minutes, nothing happened. Which made sense because Kayla was usually slow to check comments unless someone directly messaged her. But Jason clearly had notifications turned on. Because he saw it almost immediately. I know that because the first reaction under the video wasn't from Kayla. It was from him. At first, he just replied with one word. What? Then about 30 seconds later, he posted another comment. This is fake. The problem with that argument was the timestamp sitting in the top corner of the footage. And the fact that the apartment in the video was very clearly the same one Kayla had posted dozens of selfies in over the last year. Within minutes, the comment section started shifting. The same people who had been laughing about my upgrade replacement suddenly had questions. Wait, when was this? Isn't that from months ago? Wasn't she still dating Matt then? Jason stopped replying after that. Which made sense. Because the next person who finally saw the video was Kayla. And she reacted exactly how you'd expect someone to react when their entire public narrative collapses in real time. Her comment appeared about 2 minutes later. Delete this right now. No denial. No explanation. Just panic. Then she messaged me privately. 3 messages back to back. Matt, delete that. You're embarrassing yourself. Take it down before this gets worse. That last sentence was interesting. Because from my perspective, it had already gotten exactly as bad as it needed to. The comment section under her original breakup post was now full of people asking very specific questions. Jason hadn't said another word. And Kayla? She suddenly stopped replying to anyone publicly. Instead, she kept messaging me. 5 texts in less than 2 minutes. This is harassment. You can't post security footage. Take it down. That one made me laugh a little. Because technically I could post footage from my own living room. And she knew it. What she was actually worried about wasn't the legality. It was the audience. Because the next person who saw the video was Jason again. And this time his response was very different. He didn't comment. He just sent Kayla one message that everyone could see in the comment thread. You said you broke up with him first. Jason's comment sat there under the video for about 30 seconds before anyone replied. You said you broke up with him first. The sentence was simple, but the meaning behind it was obvious to everyone reading. Kayla had told 2 different stories. One to me, one to him. And now both versions were colliding publicly in the same comment section. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the replies started rolling in. Wait, so they were still together then? She cheated? Didn't she just post about being finally free? Kayla didn't respond right away, but she did delete something. Specifically, the long paragraph where she called me a loser. That disappeared first. Then the upgrade complete photo vanished. Then the stories. Within about 2 minutes, her entire breakup narrative had been quietly erased from her profile. Unfortunately for her, screenshots move faster than deletions. People had already saved everything. Jason finally commented again. This time the tone was very different. So how long were you still living with him? That question clearly wasn't meant for me. But Kayla still wasn't answering. Instead, my phone buzzed again. Another message from her. Matt, delete the video. Then another one. This is between us. You're making it worse. That one was interesting. Because about 12 hours earlier, she had been broadcasting the breakup to several hundred followers. Now suddenly it was between us. I didn't respond. Instead, I just watched the comment thread continue to unravel. Jason was still there. And based on the messages he was posting, he was realizing something in real time. Apparently, Kayla had told him she had already moved out weeks earlier, which was news to me, because as of the night before, her stuff had still been in my apartment. Someone in the comments asked the obvious question. Did he know about you too? Jason replied almost immediately. No. Then he added something else. She told me they were already done. That was the moment Kayla finally came back to the comments. Her message was short. Jason called me. But Jason didn't call her. Instead, he asked the question that ended the whole conversation. Were you still sleeping at his place last week? And for the first time since the video was posted, Kayla had absolutely nothing to say. The comments section went quiet after Jason asked the question. Were you still sleeping at his place last week? A few minutes passed with no response from Kayla, but everyone watching could see she was online. Her profile picture kept jumping to the top of the comment thread, meaning she was reading everything. Jason commented again. Kayla, nothing. Then he posted one more message. You told me you moved out weeks ago. That's when the replies from other people started stacking up. Wait, she was still living there. Didn't she just break up with him yesterday? So she was cheating and lying? The tone of the entire thread had completely flipped. About 15 minutes earlier, the comments were full of people congratulating her for upgrading. Now they were asking how long she had been lying to two different guys. Kayla finally reappeared. Her reply was short. This isn't the place for this conversation. Jason responded immediately. You made it the place when you posted about him. That one got a lot of likes. At that point, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Kayla. Matt, answer me. I still hadn't replied to any of her texts. There were 9 of them now. The last one said, You're ruining my reputation. That line actually made me laugh. Because 24 hours earlier, she had publicly called me a loser to several hundred people. But now the problem was her reputation. Meanwhile, Jason kept asking questions in the comments. Apparently, he was putting together a timeline. He wrote, You said you broke up 2 weeks ago. Then another message. But this video says you were still together 2 months ago. Then the one that really mattered. So when exactly did you start seeing me? Kayla never answered. Instead, something else happened. Her profile suddenly disappeared from the comment thread. At first, people thought she blocked Jason. But then someone else commented. Her account is gone. Kayla had deleted her entire Instagram. Just gone. Jason replied one last time under the video. Wow. Then he liked the post. And that was the moment it became clear the breakup between them had just happened too. All because of a 20-second security clip from my living room. But the weirdest part of the whole situation came about an hour later. Because after Kayla disappeared from social media, she showed up at my apartment door. About an hour after Kayla deleted her Instagram, I heard a knock on my apartment door. Not a polite knock either. The kind of aggressive knocking that suggests someone is already angry before the door even opens. I already knew who it was. Kayla had texted me twice more after deleting her account. We need to talk. Open the door. I hadn't responded. The knocking came again. So I walked over and opened it. Kayla was standing there in the hallway looking like someone whose entire day had gone very badly. Her hair was messy, makeup half smudged, and she was holding her phone like it had personally betrayed her. The first thing she said wasn't hello. What the hell is wrong with you? I leaned against the doorframe. That's how you're starting the conversation? You posted that video. Yes. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you do the same thing yesterday? She ignored that. Jason saw it. I nodded. That was kind of the point. Kayla stared at me like she couldn't decide whether to yell or cry. He thinks I was lying to him. I folded my arms. Were you? Her mouth opened, then closed again. That's not the point. It actually was the point. She ran a hand through her hair and stepped past me into the apartment like she still lived there. I had everything under control until you decided to post that. I shut the door behind her. Kayla looked around the living room for a moment before turning back to me. You could have just talked to me. I shrugged. You broke up with me on Tuesday. You didn't have to humiliate me. That word again. Humiliate. The same person who had called me a loser in front of hundreds of people less than 24 hours earlier was now very concerned about humiliation. I walked over to the couch and sat down. Kayla stayed standing. So what now? She asked. Now? Yes. You made your point. I looked at her for a second. Kayla, you made the point. How? You posted first. She rolled her eyes. That was different. How? Because you weren't supposed to respond like that. I almost laughed. Apparently, that was the part she never considered. That maybe, just maybe, the guy she publicly insulted might have receipts. Kayla finally sat down across from me. Just delete the video, she said. No. Her face tightened again. Why not? Because it's the truth. That doesn't mean it has to stay online. I shrugged. Maybe not. But you're leaving it there to punish me. I shook my head. No. I left it there to correct the story. Kayla stared at me for a long moment. Then she said something that honestly surprised me. Jason broke up with me. I leaned back slightly. That was fast. He said I lied to him. Did you? Kayla didn't answer. Instead, she looked around the apartment again like she was realizing something for the first time. The place didn't feel like hers anymore. And neither did the situation. Because the narrative she had tried to write online had just completely backfired. Kayla sat on the couch, staring at the floor for a moment. Jason broke up with me, she repeated. I nodded. That tracks. She didn't laugh. He blocked me, she said. That part actually surprised me a little. Jason had seemed pretty confident in the comments earlier. But apparently, once the full timeline became clear, he decided he didn't want to be part of the story anymore. Kayla rubbed her temples. You didn't have to destroy everything. I leaned back in the chair. Destroy what exactly? My relationship. I blinked at her. Kayla, you broke up with me less than 24 hours ago. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? She looked up at me. I finally found someone better. That sentence was interesting. Because about 2 hours earlier she had been posting about her upgrade. Now that same guy had already disappeared. I tilted my head. Did you? She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? You broke up with me to date him. Yes. And he broke up with you in one afternoon. Kayla didn't respond. Instead, she stood up and started pacing around the living room. This whole thing blew up because you posted that stupid video. I shrugged. Or because the video existed. She turned toward me. You could have just moved on. I nodded. I was planning to. But you wanted revenge. That word again. Revenge. I shook my head. No. Then why post it? Because you lied. Kayla opened her mouth to argue. Then stopped. Because that part wasn't really debatable anymore. After a few seconds, she sat back down. You know what the worst part is? She said quietly. What? My friends all saw that video. I thought about the comment section earlier. Pretty sure everyone saw it. She looked miserable. They think I cheated. I didn't say anything. Because technically, they were correct. Kayla finally looked at me again. So what happens now? Now. Yes. I stood up and walked toward the kitchen. Now you finish moving out. Her shoulders dropped again. That's it. Yeah. Kayla looked around the apartment one more time. The same place she had lived in for almost a year. The same place she had brought Jason into on those Thursday nights. And now it was the place where everything finally caught up to her. She grabbed her bag from the counter, then stopped at the door. You know, she said quietly. You didn't have to prove anything. I looked at her. I didn't. Then why did you? I shrugged. Because you tried to write the story first. She stared at me for a second, then opened the door and left. And just like that, the entire drama that Kayla started online ended in about 48 hours. The apartment was quiet after Kayla left. Not dramatic quiet. Just the normal kind you notice after someone who talks a lot suddenly isn't there anymore. I sat down on the couch and checked my phone. The video was still up. The comments section had mostly died down. People had moved on to whatever the next piece of internet drama was. Jason hadn't posted anything else. Kayla's account was still gone. And honestly, that was probably the smartest decision she made all week. About 10 minutes later, my friend Mark texted again. So what happened? I sent back a simple reply. She came by, packed the rest of her stuff. That's it. Pretty much. A minute later, he responded. Dude, that video is everywhere now. That part one hadn't expected. Apparently, a few people had downloaded it before Kayla deleted her profile and reposted it elsewhere. Once something hits the internet, it tends to travel. I didn't repost it anywhere else myself. Didn't need to. The point had already been made. Later that evening, I finally deleted the post. Not because Kayla asked, just because it had already done what it needed to do. The story she tried to tell publicly had been corrected. That was enough. A couple days later, I heard through mutual friends that Kayla was telling people the video was taken out of context, which is a creative way to describe security footage with a timestamp. Jason apparently stopped talking to her completely. And Kayla? She moved in with one of her friends across town. No more posts about upgrades. No more comments about losers. Just silence. Looking back, the whole situation was weirdly simple. The breakup itself didn't bother me much. People fall out of relationships all the time. The part that actually triggered everything was the post. If Kayla had just broken up and moved on quietly, none of this would have happened. But she wanted an audience. And the moment you bring an audience into something, you lose control of the story, especially if someone else happens to have the receipts. In this case, a 20-second security clip from a camera she forgot existed.